All right, and now we are live. Welcome to Zoom. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
There we go. All right, we're live
All right,
now.
and now we are live.
Sucks. Okay. Okay. So for the people who are going to be watching, we are going to be talking about something called the two powers in heaven. And the two powers in heaven is a very Old Testament theology, which says that there is two powers. Basically, there are two beings where there's an invisible Yahweh and there's a visible Yahweh. And well, Mike, I don't know if you want to take it away, but this is where the Trinity comes from. So that is the point of our Bible study today. We're going to be talking about where the idea of the Trinity comes from and basically how this two-power theology inspired Trinitarianism. It was more of a binitarian type of view. So if you look in your Old Testament, for example, let's go to Genesis 1, what is it, 27? That's one of the most popular verses people like to scream out, and they try and say, oh, this is the Trinity. No, it's not. It's really not.
All right. So,
You see my screen?
yeah, I can see it.
And this is the verse. But
Oh, you want me to read it?
no,
Wow.
you're about to say something.
So God created man in his own, yeah. Genesis 1:27. Yep. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. Oh boy. There's a lot to unpack in Genesis, but let's just take it at face value at the moment. We'll worry about the chaos language in another episode. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the two powers in heaven. So where this idea comes from is it comes from the Second Temple period when rabbis started decoding a language that they were noticing within the Bible. And I have a book here that kind of unfolds on that, but we're going to only focus because there's so much to this. There's so much. You have no idea how much content there is about the two powers in heaven, but we're going to focus on one chapter today, just one. And we might even be reading from a Michael Heiser's Angels book. It's a pretty good read. I have actually quite a few of his collection. I've got Angels, Demons, Reversing Herman, a lot of those things. All of it's packed with full of information, and it seems to be sound. It seems to be sound information, and I like the content in all of these books. And so in this Angels book, it talks about the two powers in heaven. So let me read a little bit out of this book. We're going to do chapter 3, page 57 of the Angels by Michael Heiser. So, perhaps the most well-known angel in the Old Testament is the one described specifically as the Malach Yahweh, the angel of the Lord. This figure is actually Yahweh himself in the visible form of a man. So, with that in mind, right, it's a minor, very minor introduction, right? We're going to go to, let me see here.
Here's the book you actually can buy. You can go to christianbooks.com, right? Yeah, christianbook.com.
Yeah, it should only be about a $15 book. It's very inexpensive. It's so good.
$14.24 for the mysteries of the universe.
Yeah, that's what I bought it for. So yeah, if you're kind of like into the scholarly stuff, there are books out there that you can get from solid PhD wielding scholars that sell books for like $15 and new $15 new. So this is one of those books, and it's good. It's very good. I'm reading the Demons book at the moment, as well as a couple others. But this Angels and Demons by Dr. Michael Heiser is very good. It's very good. I'm really getting into the Demons book. It's so good. Anyway, so with the idea of Malak Yahweh being in mind here, we're going to look at Genesis chapter 18, and we're going to read through it, right? And we're going to break down what's exactly happening here, okay? And what leads up to it is, I think this is right before Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. Yeah. Oh, yeah, and he made the covenant with God that day. Or was it the day before? Ishmael.
But,
Yeah, yeah. He made the covenant with God not too long before that. Yep. Anyway, Genesis chapter 18, right? So let's open up our Bibles or apps or whatever. You can just listen along. It doesn't matter. Okay, and we're going to break this down. Some of it in the Hebrew and some of it we're just going to explain along the way. We're going to try to make this as quick as possible. So we want to make these kind of short videos so that they're kind of bite-sized and not just packed full of whatever. Anyway, Genesis chapter 18, I'm going to read a little bit fast. And the Lord appeared to him by the oaks of Mamre as he sat at the door of his tent in the heat of the day. So here the Lord physically appeared to Abraham. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, 3 men were standing in front of him, men. So 3 men appeared, one of them being the second power in heaven. And because we're all Christians here, I presume we're going to say that person who is the Lord who showed up to Abraham in Genesis chapter 18 was probably Jesus. So let's see. When he saw them, he ran from the tent door to meet them and bowed himself to the earth and said, O Lord, if I have found favor in your sight, do not pass by your servant. Let a little water be brought and wash your feet and rest yourselves under the tree, while I bring a morsel of bread that you may refresh yourself, and after that you may pass on, since you have come to your servant. So in these verses, we're talking about Abraham literally and physically serving the second power, who is allegedly Yahweh in these texts. Okay,
we know it's Yahweh too. So to the right of my screen, this is an interlinear. This is a Hebrew interlinear to English.
Yes, if you look up the Hebrew for all of the word of all of where it says Lord, except for Genesis chapter 10 or Genesis chapter 18 verse 10, where it says the Lord, there is nothing there. I'm actually going to have to ask Dr. Heiser about that when we interview him later on. It doesn't say anything there. There is no interpretation for the Lord said in verse 10 here. But beyond that, everywhere it says Lord, it's either Adonai, Adana, or Yahweh. So with that being said, let's continue. We got to make this really short and quick. So do as you said. Okay, since you have come to serve it, so they said, do as you have said. And Abraham went quickly into the tent to Sarah and said, quick, 3 seahs of fine flour, knead it and make cakes. And Abraham ran to the herd and took a calf, tender and good, and gave it to a young man who prepared it quickly. Then he took curds of milk and calf, and he had prepared and set it before them, and he stood by them under the tree while they ate. So they physically ate the food that Abraham offered these gentlemen that appeared to Abraham. And these are supposed to be the heavenly host, for future references, a divine council. This is a divine entity that Abraham is physically feeding face to face, and he's allegedly Yahweh, the God of heaven, the second power. They said to him, where is Sarah, your wife? And he said, she is in the tent. The Lord said, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, shall have a son. And Sarah was listening at the tent door behind him. Now Abraham and Sarah were old, advanced in years. The way of women had ceased to be with Sarah. Okay, so Sarah laughed to herself, saying, after I am worn out and my Lord is old, shall I have pleasure? I didn't even know that was the word there, pleasure, but it's interesting. Anyway, so God makes a what do you call it? A prophecy. He says that in their old age they will have a child because he said that they would. So that's prophetic from the second power in heaven, mind you. Shall I have pleasure? The Lord said to Abraham, why did Sarah? Go ahead.
And just so people are clear, how do we know this is the second power and not the first?
Right, because there's no break. The language isn't changing here. That's how we know. We can tell by the text, because usually when there's a break, it talks about, it's either one power talking about another in a third person, or another power talking about the other in a third person. And they'll change it up. They'll actually switch each other. They'll talk about themselves in the first person as if they were God, and then they'll talk about themselves in the third person as if they were God and they themselves. It's very strange. Maybe we can get into that later if this is short enough. Why did Sarah laugh and say, shall I indeed bear a child now that I am old? Verse 14, is anything too hard for the Lord? Obviously not. At the appointed time, I will return to you about this time next year, and Sarah shall have a son. But Sarah denied it, saying, I did not laugh, for she was afraid. He said, no, but you did laugh. Right. And according to what the text here says, she probably laughed where God wouldn't have been able to hear it. But I mean, if you know God, you know he's omnipotent and he can hear and he knows all things. Then the men set out from there. Sorry, continuing from verse 16. Then the men set out from there and they looked down towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to set them on their way. All right. So Abraham physically went with these three men. Now, you probably forgot that there were two other angels with him, but the second power had two other angels, and here they're being presented back into the text. Then the men set out from.
Wait, because a common argument that people make is all three of these beings were angels. So how could we just smoothly show that no, one of these beings is Yahweh and the other two are angels?
Well, they're all angels. That's the thing. But one is set apart from all the others, and he's clearly leading them because he's the subject text of this chapter. The Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? I mean, everything revolves around what's happening with this person that Abraham is serving.
Now let's go to 18:17 in our interlinear. And the Lord, let me see.
It's Yahweh.
The Lord is Yahweh. So
Yep.
Yahweh talking to Abraham
in physical form. Yahweh is talking to Abraham in physical form. So he's talking to him face to face. And he says in verse 17, the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed for him. For I have chosen him that he may command his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing righteousness and justice, so that the Lord may bring to Abraham what he has promised him. Okay, verse 20. Then the Lord said, all right, so I'm going to look that up. Then the Lord said, who is the Lord? Sorry, give me a second here.
Oh, in the interlinear?
Also Yahweh. So then Yahweh said, because the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is great and their sin is very grave, I will go down to see whether they have done altogether according to the outcry that has come to me. And if not, I will know.
And then
all right.
If you go down to verse 22, watch this. It says, so the men turned from there and went toward Sodom. Oh, let me fix this. So the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham still stood before the Lord. And in our interlinear, we're going to go to our interlinear and see where interlinear says for what this word says in the Hebrew. We're using an interlinear because the Bible was not written in English. The Bible was originally written in Hebrew, translated to English. And our interlinear says, so the men turned from there, and the word used for the Lord is, and I just want to pull it out on the evidence, let the record show that in Genesis 18:22, it says, so the men turned from there and went toward Sodom, but Abraham stood before and the word being used is Yahweh.
Yep.
So this is Yahweh who is physically standing with Abraham, not to be confused with Yahweh God the Father. This is the Yahweh who is the second power.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Exactly.
so this is not God the Father standing next to Abraham. This is God the second power. Remind you, I did not say anything about Jesus. This is Old Testament Jewish theology. They would not have known anything about a Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach around this time period. But it
But
was, go ahead.
but these guys, the writers, whoever they were very aware that there was something else that was appearing before the patriarchs. The patriarchs had face-to-face communication with an entity that was so powerful that it could destroy an entire city with fire and brimstone, as you will see later on in the text. Okay, so that's who this person is. This is the same person, and we'll reveal something a little bit later at the end when we finish, when we get to the fire and brimstone aspect of it. Okay, so to keep this short, we're going to continue on from verse 23. Then Abraham drew near and said, "Will you indeed sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Suppose there are 50 righteous within the city. Will you then sweep away the place and not spare it for the 50 righteous who are in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to put the righteous to death with the wicked, so that the righteous fare as the wicked. Far, far be that from you. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just?" Wow, he actually made a declaration there. Shall not the judge of all the earth do what is just? So Abraham is making a declaration that this person standing before him is somebody extremely powerful. Judge of all the earth. That's what he just called him. And the Lord said, "If I find at Sodom 50 righteous in the city, I will spare the whole." So let's kind of get past this whole thing here, right? Suppose 20 found, sake of 20, blah, 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 10, right? When he had finished speaking to Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place, right? Let's do chapter 19, all right? Let's jump forward to chapter 19 because we know that he's trying to haggle with God about whether to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. Moving on, God rescues Lot. The two angels come to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gate of Sodom. When Lot saw them, he rose to meet them and bowed himself with his face to the earth and said, "My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet." So the two angels that had just left Yahweh and Abraham came down to Lot's home. These are the same exact angels. They did not disappear. They did not go back to heaven. They physically walked to Lot's home in Sodom. Okay, so keep that in mind. Because when they break up these chapters, they're somebody in the 5th century kind of didn't do a very good job breaking these things up verse by verse and chapter by chapter, because sometimes it just makes no sense. In this case, it does make sense because we're jumping to a different event, a different scene. So we're jumping to a different scene right now. "My lords, please turn aside to your servant's house and spend the night and wash your feet. Then you may rise up early and go on your way." They said, "No, we will spend the night in the town square in Sodom." But he pressed them strongly, so they turned aside to him and entered his house, and he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. So once again, these two divine angels that had just left their Lord Yahweh and Abraham to go to Sodom to meet Lot in his house. Lot is now feeding them bread, and they ate. So these angels, they can eat. I don't think they have to, but they can. All right. So verse 4, "But before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people to the last man, surrounded the house, and they called to Lot, 'Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we may know them.'" So that's a euphemism. "We may know them" obviously means we're going to have sex with them. So sorry if that's a little rough, but that's just what it is. That's a Hebrew euphemism that there's a lot of those, but this is one of them, "that we may know them." So they were planning on basically forcing themselves on these angels. So verse 6, Lot went out to the men at the entrance, shut the door after him, and said, I beg you, my brothers, do not act so wickedly. Behold, I have 2 daughters who have not known any man. Let me bring them out to you and do to them as you please. Only do nothing to these men, for they have come under the shelter of my roof. But they said, Stand back. And they said, This fellow came to sojourn, and he has become the judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with them. Then they pressed hard against the man Lot and drew near to break the door down. But the men reached out their hands and brought Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they stuck with blindness the men who were at the entrance of the house, both small and great, so that they wore themselves out groping for the door. So let me break this whole thing down, right? Just for the sake of knowledge, because this was kind of a lot. So men showed up to rape the angels. Crazy enough. Lot's reaction, unbelievably, is that he's going to give his virgin daughters to a bunch of these men so that they wouldn't rape the angels. That's not a good response, in my opinion. That is just not a good response. I'm going to give my virgin daughters to a bunch of men who want to rape these angels. That's so mind-blowing. I don't even get that. Maybe he panicked or something. That's so weird. All right. So thankfully nothing happened to his daughters, and the angels basically saved Lot because they were about to kill him and rape the angels, which would have been crazy, and presumably rape his daughters anyway. So, wow. Then the men said to Lot, verse 12, then the men said to Lot, have you anyone else here, sons-in-law, sons, daughters, or anyone you have in the city? Bring them out of the place, for we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against the people has become great before the Lord. All right? Great
What
before.
else it shows right off the bat?
Yeah.
The angels are asking him for information that only obviously somebody omniscient will know about. Do you have anybody else in this city? Is anybody? They're asking him about information where if the because another common argument is that these 2 angels are God too. This is an expression of the Trinity. This isn't an expression of the Trinity. They're not omniscient. There's information they don't have.
That's true. Yeah. So yeah, they are trying to gather information from Lot about whether there's other people that Lot would like to be saved. So okay, for time's sake, I guess we can't linger very long here. Verse 13, we're going to look up the Hebrew for.
As long as we don't have like a 3-hour video or anything, it's been a good like 20 minutes, so it's fine. But as long as we don't have like a 3-hour sermon jam.
Right. But let's keep it at least under 30 minutes. I think that's a good idea, especially for this first video. So we're going to look up the Hebrew for verse 13 for before the Lord and the Lord. So those words are in Hebrew, Yahweh. I just looked it up. So because the outcry against his people has become great before Yahweh, and who is this other one? And Yahweh has sent us to destroy it. Okay, so Lot. So these angels are confirming that Yahweh has sent those 2 angels to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. All right. Verse 14. So Lot went out and said to his sons-in-law who were to marry his daughters, Up, get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city. Right? Who is the Lord? Right? We like to do that. We're going to look up every time that in this case, we're going to look up what lords and so forth are in the Hebrew to confirm that that they're speaking about Yahweh. For Yahweh is about to destroy the city, but he seemed to his sons-in-law to be jesting. That's not good. We're about to destroy the city. Oh, he's kidding, right? No, that's ridiculous. Verse 15. As morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, Up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest he be swept away in the punishment of the city. But he lingered. So the men seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand. Oh boy. So the angels actually forced Lot and his family out.
They were joking around like they thought it was a game.
Yeah, man, they were not joking. That's crazy. This is so interesting when you just get into when you look between the grass blades. It's crazy. Anyway, the Lord.
Do you think people today, like because people are so desensitized to supernatural and spiritual things, if some angels who look like people came to average everyday simpletons today, hey, we're about to destroy your city or town, I think some people, don't you think they would probably respond in similar ways, given
Probably, but that's it's just the way it is, especially throughout the Bible, especially when it comes to the prophets. Like, people would consider them madmen, but story for another time. Anyway, the Lord, who is the Lord? Oh, it's Yahweh again, the Lord, being merciful to him, and they brought him out and set him outside the city. And as they brought them out, one said, "Escape for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Escape to the hills, lest you be swept away." Verse 18, and Lot said to them, "Oh no, my lords. Behold, your servant has found favor in your sight, and you have shown me great kindness in saving my life. But I cannot escape to the hills, lest the disaster overtake me and I die. Behold, this city is near enough to flee to, and it is a little one. Let me escape there. Is it not a little one? And my life will be saved." He said to him, "Behold, I grant you this favor also, that I will not overthrow the city of which you have spoken. Escape there quickly, for I can do nothing till you arrive there." Therefore, the name of the city was called Zoar. Okay, verse 23. Genesis chapter 19, verse 23. The sun had risen on the earth when Lot came to Zoar. All right, this is where it gets very interesting. And this is kind of the watershed moment in which we present the two powers in heaven. All right, verse 24, Genesis chapter 19, verse 24. Then the Lord, who is the Lord, Yahweh, rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from who? The Lord. How is that possible?
then Yahweh rained on Sodom and Gomorrah sulfur and fire from Yahweh out of heaven. There's two.
In one verse.
Yahweh and Yahweh. Yahweh rains down fire from Yahweh. He rains down fire from himself.
Why would the text be written that way? And why would somebody ask themselves for permission?
Because there's two. Now, this doesn't take away from the fact that Israelites, Jews, they worship one God. They are monotheistic.
Mm-hmm.
However, there is one God who is expressed in two distinct different people, but they are one. They are equal.
That's right. And we could actually do a part 2 in Exodus for this. The Exodus, what is it? Chapter 23? Yeah, 23:20. And then a little bit forward from there. We'll do that another time. We can do a part 2 on the two powers in heaven and just give you two really solid examples of this. So this is one. This is one from Genesis. And it's it's one of the big stories in Genesis. It's incredible. The content within that small section is incredible. How much detail there is, and how much, if you really dig, if you know how to look for it, what to look for, and you have the resources, this book will never be the same for you. Ever. It will never be the same. I would say within the last maybe 3 or 4 months since I've been getting into the scholarly work, there is absolutely no part of the Bible that I can look at the same. I can't read it, but I can't read the Bible by itself anymore. I need something that comes from a scholar to help me transform how I need to view it. And when you cross that threshold, you absolutely cannot go back. You can't do it.
Into that. So we are going to leave you with those nuggets to think on. With that being said, that is it for our broadcast for today. I'm going to end it, but until next time, good luck and good night. And hopefully by the next time you guys see me, I actually have a better working camera, but it's good for now. With that being said, yeah, if you guys need us, shoot us a comment. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions, and